Okay, I will talk about deployment automation, or how to build a complete system from scratch. The requirement is to have an installation process easy to repeat, documented, and auditable. So we are going to discuss about Vagrant, Fabric, and the tools to deploy on Amazon Web Services. Okay. So, the motivation, to find an easy way to reproduce the installation process so our co-worker can replicate deployment without pain. Because until some years ago, we have a README file in which we describe how to install a virtual env, which Python to use, and usually we use a build out to replicate the installation, but to have a better system, we like to start from the operating system. So we start with a virtual machine, and from there we have the complete system. So some definition, but I skipped this because we are late. Release, installation, deployment, okay. So, which tools I use? Vagrant, Fabric, Amazon Web Services, both 3, and AWS CLI. Vagrant. What is Vagrant? It's a tool to manage virtual machines and containers, and a repository of pre-installed virtual machines. So, in Vagrant, you have a repository of virtual machine, and you simply get one and create a virtual machine. You can create a virtual machine with VirtualBox, Hyper-V, Docker. Okay, so it's simple to have a virtual machine. This is the URL where you find the boxes. The boxes are the pre-installed virtual machine. You create a virtual machine, simply launch the command Vagrant init and the name of the box you want to use. Okay. After the init command, you have a Vagrant file that contains the configuration and the name of the boxes. And in this file, you can add you can configure some parameters as the number of CPUs, the size of the memory, and the dimension of the disks, and so on. Then you can start the machine with a simple Vagrant app, and when the machine is up, you can access SSH in the shell with this command. When you have done, you can stop it with Vagrant halt. So, after we have a virtual machine working, we like to install the system with the needed package. So, I use Fabric. Fabric is a library in Python that make an SSH connection to the machine, virtual or real. And it's very similar to Ansible, more than Chef or Puppet. It means that we don't need to have something just installed on the target machine. It uses invoke, that is a library to manage shell command execution, and Paramiko to manage the SSH functionalities. Okay. Sorry. I call the methods of Fabric to install packages, configure servers like Apache, Monit, Postfix, LapD, Postgres, and so on, or download source code and make the compilation, or run build-outs. Some definition, yes, we skip. Okay, the typical operation are to run command with run or sudo and transfer file. An interesting thing is to run the same script on different machines. So you can, for example, update 3 machines with the same script. Okay, this is a simple snippet of code that show run. You create a connection, server connection web. Web 1 is the configuration in your .ssh configuration, so the configuration to connect to a machine. And you can run the command with server.run, in this case hostname, and you can use the result to check if the command is run without fail. The other typical method is sudo, where you can use to do system super user to launch system super user commands. In this example, I run user add or make a dir in a place where normal user cannot create directories. And in the last, I restart Apache. Okay, this is the command to transfer a file to the server. Okay. With the Fabric, you can create a script from scratch, launching all command you need to install the system. But usually I use some libraries, Fabtools and Cuisine. Fabtools, like Cuisine, provide some methods to manage system user packages database. So you have something like add user or add Apache, something like this. They use the terminology require method that are similar to Chef or Puppet. So, for example, we have require Apache, require Git, require groups, require Python, and require users. For example, to install Apache, we launch Fabtools require Apache server, and the system install the packages and start the server. And similar for other operation like add the user or make a database. Okay, Cuisine is very similar, but the syntax is a little different. For example, okay, I skip this. For example, we have to update a file, we have file underscore update, the name of the file, and the function to modify the configuration. In this case, we change the configuration of Monit to start with a delay of 60 seconds instead of 240. Okay. This is the same command to add a user. The syntax is user underscore ensure AXA. And to install packages, we have package underscore ensure. Okay, so Fabtools and Cuisine are very similar, but Cuisine supports different type of system, so you can use apt instead of yum or another package system that I don't remember. But I usually I use Ubuntu or Debian, so for me, Cuisine and Fabtools are very similar. Okay, this is a simple example. I define a task to run on the system. This is very simple. Check system run a name means A, LSB release means A, host name GTL status. And I run this from command line, from the shell with fab -h, the name of the host, and the task I want to run, okay? Okay, this is very simple. I have the real installation script is something like 300 lines of code. So I think you know Amazon Web Services, so what can I say? The best thing about Amazon Web Services is that you can choose on very different type of machines, all sides, different number of CPUs, different types of RAM, different types of network interfaces, and you can add some disk runtime. You can change the size runtime, so it's very flexible if you need to change something. Okay. So what I use about AVS, I use AC2, ABS, and AP for the most. So the virtual machine, the virtual disk, and the elastic IP that is the system to have an internet address. And the snapshots that I use a simple backup tool because you can make a snapshot of a disk. And the security group rules that I use as firewall. Okay. How do I create a machine using Bot3 or command line interface? AWS, they are very similar. The only difference is that AWS CLI, you can use it in Bash script, and Bot3 instead is a Python library. So, which the reason to use to script installation to have infrastructure as code, so you can launch the script and machine exactly the way you want. For example, we create the stage development production machine with the same script. Just in some cases, we have a configuration file to change the size of the machine or the disks, something like this. But it's only a question of change the configuration file, not the script. And so Bot3 is this library. It permits to access the service and to create, change, add disks to machines, and so on. In my case, I use the library to access these services. This is a simple example. I create a connection to the EC2 services and launch a command to have the instances I've just created. Okay. And in this other example, I create new instances using the name of the MI, that is the correspondent of Vagrant box. So it's a pre-installed disk. And the instance type is the type of virtual machine I want to use. Okay. Okay. This is another example. I create a volume in a specific zone with the size of the 50 gigabyte and with a specific type. GP2 is SSD type of disk. Okay, this is the command to start one instance. And at last, in the beginning, I create the scripts not like a Python script, but a Bash script. But the commands are very the same, so you can use one or the other, and it's the same. Okay, that's all.